Hello, everyone. We're back with the plant-free MD, Dr. AnthonyChaffee, and today's topic is all about mental health. So I suppose the stereotype of someone who eats carnivore is kind of like a big, buff, strong person. But when you actually kind of look into the carnivore community, you start to notice a lot of people who talk about mental health. And there's a big group of people who've recovered from depression. Sean Baker has interviewed hundreds of them, and it's a real trend. So anyone who's kind of given carnivore a try probably won't surprise them that much, because once you get that physiology sorted, so once you get nutrition down pat, the rest of your life can really flow from there. And I know Dr. Chaffee and I have both experienced the benefits in terms of our own mental health from eating carnivore and cutting out foods that might be causing us distress. So welcome, Dr. Chaffee. This is going to be a really interesting one.
Yeah, great. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Dr. Chaffee, I want to start off by asking about your experience with mental health in the context of carnivore.
Yeah, for me, I've had bouts of depression and things like that. Nothing that is as bad as many others have experienced, but I've had my moments and I've had my issues, and sometimes are better than worse. Mostly, I'm a pretty happy guy, but you have issues. I definitely did notice when I was carnivore that I was just much happier, just more relaxed. Things didn't bother me as much. Then when I rediscovered carnivore, the last sort of several years, I was talking to my parents about this, and they were getting interested in it, and so they wanted to try it. And so I was over at my parents' house for dinner, and my mother was making a lamb roast, and she was just putting every single herb that existed onto this thing, because that was her sort of workaround for eating plants, was to just put it on the meat. And, I pointed out that, these are plants, you don't want to eat plants. And she said, no, it's just on the meat, that, it's fine. Somehow that makes it okay. And it's like, yeah, well, tipping cocaine into your coffee, it's just coffee. And like, well, no, there's other stuff in there. And so she made this, and I was contemplating sort of scraping off the herbs and so forth, but I, didn't, for various reasons. I didn't want to, seem rude. This was early on. Like now, I don't care. I'll scrape anything off. And so I just left it on there. And I also wanted to sort of experiment. So, okay, what is this doing to me? Let's see what sort of effect this has. Well, I became extraordinarily depressed. I was very upset. There was nothing going on in my day or at that dinner that really should have, justified me feeling the way I did, but I did feel that way. I remember going to bed that night being extremely upset, being extremely depressed, and actually contemplating suicide. Literally, I was thinking about it. I was thinking about how to do it, and all of a sudden, I just sort of woke up and thought to myself, I shouldn't feel like this. Nothing happened today that should have made me feel like this, but I do feel like this. And so I said, okay, this is pathological. Something has happened. This isn't a response to events. This is something else. And so I recognized that in myself. And so I said, okay, I'll go to bed, I'll sleep, and then I'll see how I feel in the morning. And if I still feel this way, we'll take it from there. I woke up in the morning and just sort of felt emotionally numb, and certainly didn't feel the same way I did the night before. And I thought, okay, what was that about? Why was I just completely overreacting to the situation, or was it something else? Was this, my thought was possibly the plants, the herbs that got put on it, but there weren't that many. But was that it? So, I figured, okay, well, let's experiment. Try some more of the lamb. And so I ate a couple more pieces of the lamb, and I was horribly depressed for the rest of the day. And I was like, right, get these things the hell away from me. And it's just, another piece of evidence, in my life that, reaffirmed, my stance of just not eating plants unless I was starving to death and had no other choice. I've since then noticed occasionally like something will get mixed in, or if I'm traveling or something like that, and I had some meat that had like maybe, I was in Vietnam and had some meat that had some greens of some description mixed in with it. And I was really, I got hit with depression again. And so for me, it's very important to stay away from those sorts of things as well. And, when you eat these things all the time, and you have these poisons in your body can build up a tolerance towards them. And then when you go away from these things, you don't have the tolerance that you had for them. And then all of a sudden you hit them and they hit you full in the face. So the same with alcohol and other sorts of drugs and so forth. You'll lose your tolerance, and it will affect you much more severely. And I think that's what's going on here as well with other plants, is that we have built up bits of resistances to them, and now this is going to hit us harder. So for me, it just I really want to stay away from these things. And that's certainly something that I've seen in patients as well.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a really tough thing to go through. I mean, if only for 24 hours, but it's confronting for anyone to feel like that. Yeah, you make an interesting point that it's likely that you're more susceptible to the negative side effects of plants because you're so strict, and your body doesn't need to have any tolerance built in because you're not feeding it any of those seeds or plants or any plant product. But it does kind of make you think that people who are getting that even low level plant toxicity or gut disturbance from processed foods every single day, what's that doing to their underlying kind of happiness or mental health? Maybe they don't even realize how much it's affecting them.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and this builds up as well. And we have this, what I describe, when we're eating normal diet, we have this baseline level of crap that we feel, and we consider that normal because it's normal for us. And then we judge, well, I feel good today or bad today based on that baseline level of crap that we feel. But we don't realize we feel like crap until we get out of it. And so since I stopped eating all that stuff, I've realized I just feel so much better than I've ever felt before. And I can look back at myself and go, no, I've actually felt like crap most of my life. And that's why I also have no inclination to go back. I don't want to feel like crap anymore. There are other factors as well. A lot of people have been so vilified, something we've spoken about at length, but cholesterol is very, very important. It's important for our brain and our body, our hormones, and it's also important for our mental health. There are several studies that have come out in the psychiatric in journals and so forth that show that higher LDL cholesterol is actually protective against depression and anxiety, and that people with lower LDL cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol, have much higher rates of depression and anxiety. And they found that their patients that had low LDL cholesterol and depression had a much higher rate of suicidality. So there's more to it than that as well. And so you look at people such as like Jordan Peterson is a famous example. He was having a lot of health issues that he doesn't really talk about, but he had these significant issues because of his daughter. He started using diet to change, modify his life, and had from the sounds of it very, very good success. Was losing weight, was feeling much better, and so forth. And was just eating like big salads and a lot of fatty meat. So he had the cholesterol, he had the nutrients that he needed, but he was still having depression and anxiety. And so his daughter convinced him to go pure carnivore for a month. He said, fine, check it out. Stopped eating salads. Within a few weeks, his depression and anxiety were essentially gone. And he said, something effective. Salad was doing this to me.
Yeah, salad of all things were causing these issues for Dr. Peterson.
Yeah. So salad, we're told this is really good for you. This is great, and so we eat it, and then actually, in fact, it's bad. Because as I was always saying, that plants are trying to kill you. They don't want to be eaten. If you eat them, they die, and so they need to defend themselves. And so we think of it. We think of one thing at a time. Cholesterol or carbohydrates or whatever being bad for us, but there are thousands of things that are bad for us, and they do very different things. I've talked about different things. Some vegetables make you sensitive to light. Some screw up your hormones. Some mimic estrogen or testosterone and screw up your cycles. And so a lot of these things are causing inflammation generally as well. And so I think it's very easy to imagine that these things can also affect our mental health as well. And we see that anecdotally in practice, that I have a lot of patients that have had serious anxiety and depression that have just gone away by going on a carnivore diet, and specifically going from keto to a carnivore diet, getting rid of those last vestiges of vegetables, and so forth, help people significantly.
One of the challenges is it's unless you go strict carnivore or real elimination diet, like how do people find out exactly what is potentially triggering these, this anxiety or depression or what have you? I suppose, I don't know, is carnivore the answer, and then slowly introducing things?
Yeah, I think that, you never know exactly what's causing what. All plants are going to cause some sort of harm. And so if you want to live optimally and you want to be the healthiest that you can be, then obviously, the full elimination of all of those things is recommended. But yeah, if you suffer from these issues and you have these problems, instead of just looking at this going like, oh, here's this problem, here's a pill for it, why not try addressing what could be an underlying cause? Now, maybe something else is going on besides nutrition, but nutrition is certainly going to help. Whether or not it gets rid of it completely, it will help. Like, I have no doubt in my mind. And so, by going on that full elimination diet, taking off everything and just seeing how you feel. Are you one of these people that this is going to be significantly affected by and benefited by? And if you want to add some things back in, you can see how it affects you. For me, every time something gets added back in, I feel like crap. And so I was just like, yeah, no, I don't want to add anything back in.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. Like, there are obviously things that we can't control in our lives, and there are outside factors that can cause, all sorts of mental health issues. But one thing you can control is what you put in your body.
Right.
By putting good food in your body that's not causing any distress, and then also giving yourself adequate cholesterol so that your brain can function properly.
Yeah.
I think you're giving yourself every chance.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, you can't affect everything, but you can at least address the reversible causes. And so the things that you have, in control over, trying to address those things, and then, whatever's left after that, you just have to sort of learn to deal with. Other times there are medications that can help as well. But, I think that's a very good place to start, because A, it will help, quite a lot of people. And B, it will get you to a position that, maybe you do need medication to help you. You're in a much stronger position for that medication to help you, get through your depression. Because you're going to be much healthier, and you're taking away some of the factors that could be causing this issue. And so once you've done that, you're in a much better position to say, okay, well, now maybe medication is really beneficial. And this is, again, this is something that in the psychiatric journals, specifically talking about cholesterol. So, psychiatrists are now recommending and even pushing for their depressed patients to get their cholesterol up and get their LDL cholesterol up. This is the recommendations of these journals, and this is something that has been incorporated into practice. So this is one of the things that we have control over, and that we can change about our own lives. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, that's good to hear that doctors are prescribing high cholesterol, because that certainly hasn't been the case in recent history.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that there are, and that's the best part, is because this is a mainstream discipline, psychiatry, obviously, and so these are becoming mainstream recommendations, which is very, very good. Obviously, there are doctors like myself, Dr. Baker, and plenty of others who recommend people getting their cholesterol level up. Even cardiologists. I'll be in a panel debate with 2 other cardiologists on my side against sort of 3 other cardiologists discussing cholesterol, and my side of the panel is saying that, hey, cholesterol is not what we were told it was, and this is something that is actually good for us, and the studies present that. And so we actually do have people prescribing this and recommending this, but at the same time, it's not the mainstream. And so getting these mainstream journal articles coming around saying that, hey, you should get your patients' cholesterol up, this is making a big difference, is great to see.
Absolutely. So in terms of getting people's cholesterol up, obviously eating fatty meat seems to be kind of the best avenue. Adding more butter to meals, particularly rather than like seed or vegetable oils. Is that kind of is that what you would recommend for anyone looking to kind of experiment with increasing their cholesterol?
Yeah. So Yeah, exactly. And just fatty meats. I would obviously stay away from any plant oils in general. Plant oils are very unstable once they get out of the plant and they start breaking down into reactive oxygen species and different sorts of toxic elements. They have a ton of omega-6s, which cause extreme inflammation past a certain point. And so these are going to cause harm, and you want them out of your body. Especially when you cook with them, this dramatically increases the degradation of these products. Anyone who's taken chemistry would know that every 10 degrees Celsius that you increase a reaction, it doubles the reaction rate. And so when you're cooking with something, you're increasing the temperature by a couple hundred degrees Celsius. And so you're increasing the reaction rate and the breakdown into these harmful chemicals by millions and millions and millions, tens of millions of times. And so avoid those. Also, they have different, things like, studies showing like linoleic acid, polyunsaturated fats, they will actually reduce your cholesterol, and they will actually increase heart disease and death from cardiovascular disease. That's actually been shown. So the best ones to do are just animal fats. So it's obviously best to get this from the meat that you eat, but you can certainly add butter. You can add lard or tallow, ghee. These are all good things. There was a study that came out recently showing that actually sometimes there are different cholesterol levels. It doesn't necessarily just go with the fat. So like a sirloin steak, even though it has less fat than like a ribeye, it actually has more cholesterol than a ribeye. And so, yeah, exactly. So it was a bit surprising, but but you will get cholesterol from meat and from eggs. And so getting from those natural sources is great. Adding in any sort of animal fats such as, butter, tallow, and so forth are also great.
Fascinating. Yeah, I think anyone who's doubting how important physiology and nutrition is when it comes to mental health, think of a hangover and think of the grog horrors you can get after a big night, and it can last 2 or 3 days. That's directly from putting poison in your body. And if you're putting low-grade poison in your body every single day, which you may be doing by eating plants and other toxins, it's just constant, and you start to get those doubts. I think everyone's experienced it. You
just get a constant barrage on your mental health and sanity.
Yeah.
I love the Irish have a great term for hangover. They call it the fear. Oh. And I think it's so perfectly descriptive of you're sitting there and you're just so anxious and afraid. You're just like, everything I'm doing is wrong. I've messed up my life. I'm not doing everything. And you just feel so anxious about everything you're doing wrong in your life, and you just feel wretched. It's such an awful feeling. And so we don't think about it on these terms. We don't think about how the things that we eat can affect our mental health so severely. And we think, oh, well, that's crazy. Well, how could it possibly do that? This is a chemical disturbance in our brain. It's just natural. We can't do anything about it, but actually you can. And and that's a perfect example. When you're coming down from being drunk and you're hungover, this does affect your mental health.
Absolutely.
And so so we know inherently, intuitively, that these things that we do to our body can absolutely affect our mental health. And so why can't it be done by spinach? Certainly does for me.
Yeah I've experienced it too. Anything that will sort of particularly upset my gut, or anything for me like really refined or processed, I feel tip top the next day. I feel like I can don't have the same energy, but that's where understanding how your body reacts can really help. And in a day or two, as you experience with the seed and nut covered lamb and herb covered lamb, you can get back to where you were. Awesome. All right, well, Dr. Chaffee, thank you so much. That was a really interesting chat about mental health, and look forward to the next one.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you for having me.